Very good morning, everybody, for Wednesday, the 3rd of August. So we have a number of fronts crossing throughout the day. The real position of these fronts is going to really provide the difference on whether we see a really good clearance or, similar to yesterday, we see a slow improvement where we don't actually see the sunshine until about 5 in the evening. Quite a humid night. Wasn't particularly any rain associated with it, which is a shame, seeing as yet more areas are looking at water restrictions now. But during the day today, it's going to still feel fairly humid, at least most of the morning. Pretty low cloud base with a hopefully improving picture later. There's a number of fronts on here, and as David has been talking about on his forecasting group, there's a number of fronts that aren't actually on this chart as well. So yeah, at the moment, what you can see outside is effectively a lot of humid air with some frontal activity. As we go through into the next few days, high pressure starts to build from the west, and that really does start to settle down the weather and starts to bring the wind in from a good direction for Lasham, which is generally northerly. And with that, we'll start to see the weather settle down, and hopefully we're going to have some really good soaring days ahead. Those winds, well, they are southwesterly, but they're going to start to veer more to westerly as the day goes on, at height probably 20 knots or so, on the ground looking about 10 to 15 knots. Satellite picture over the UK. It's been interesting this morning to watch Chris Gill, who's one of the top pilots in Wales, soaring up and down the Welsh coast at about 12,000 feet. He's trying to get on a trip up to Newcastle and down to about Lincoln and back. Last I saw, he was still climbing through 13,000 feet over there. So definitely plenty of wave activity at the more north of the country you are. Where we are, it looks like there's less wave activity now than there was. I can still see little ripples out towards Kent. But yeah, lots and lots of cloud, most of it quite low at the moment. You can see the clearance back into that front there. That's going to be quite a while before we see any of that. So it's going to take some heating to really burn through the cloud. I think the public forecast is pretty much spot on for today. You can see that humidity figures are quite high till the middle part of the day, or mid to late part of the day, in fact. And you can see that wind that will eventually veer around into a west southwesterly, with 22 degrees being the top temperature to be expected. I think that's a couple of degrees lower than they're expecting, and sort of moderate to good visibility across the region. But yeah, a fair amount of clouds. Looking for the outlook though, you've got a lot to look forward to. If we see a little bit more sunshine, GFS suggests that we should see 25 degrees, maybe even 25 and a half. And dew points still remaining fairly humid, with 15 looking at like the dew point this afternoon, better in the centre of the country. Currently at Lasham, we have a temperature of 19 and a dew point of 16. And the picture outside is that, and I reckon the cloud base is probably sub 1,000 feet at the moment. Farnborough are currently reporting overcast at 1,000, and their TAF is showing that really we're not going to see any reasonable improvement until mid to late morning. That's fairly consistent across the region. Okay, on to sky sights and potential flight distance for today. As you can see, it really depends where the sunshine comes through, and I'm not too sure how accurate this data is going to be today. This is actually suggesting that a lot of the area to our north is not as good as it was suggested. Plenty of good stuff in all the airspace areas, typical, but a short cross country may be possible. But I think if you look at tomorrow onwards, I think it might be worth waiting for then. Thermal strengths though, this afternoon, this is still predicting that there could be some thick cloud later, but looking at this, at around 2:30, sort of weak to moderate climbs with a cloud base around Lasham of around 3,000 feet. And it really doesn't get much better than that. There's areas where it might get up to sort of 3,500 feet, but this is suggesting that there is going to be quite a lot of cloud throughout our region, and whether it goes or not is a very good question. and you see the height of thermals, not particularly good at all in our region. Just over 1,000 meters. It shows there could be some drizzle, but I think it's going to be very limited at best. The air mass is still very humid, so a lot of it will evaporate. But yeah, there is definitely the risk of some overdevelopments, which, as you can see on here, where it's the brighter colours are, is where clouds are overdeveloping too much, and there's a bit too much top sort of medium level cloud building. But yeah, as you can see here, it's going to be a little bit tricky. Down to our south, still remaining with that sort of 3,500 foot mark. I think Top Meteo being slightly more realistic, so SkySight being a little bit more realistic than Top Meteo. We might see the odd bit of convergence forming locally to the airfield, linked with some of these sort of changes in air mass, whether we get a couple of showers or just some difference in heating, but nothing really spectacular or well organised, if I'm honest. And just look at spots forecast for Lasham today, and you can see here that yeah, sort of moderate conditions. I mean, this says it should be sunny now, which sort of shows how tricky it is to get these models to really get the full picture of what's going on. But yeah, later today, probably 2 to 3 knot climbs, with it peaking at around 3,500 feet in our area. The point QT still showing lots of cloud in the afternoon, even at sort of half 2, it's showing that it may be only 2,500 foot cloud base. So yeah, a bit disappointing really. I think there's just been a little bit more moisture and a bit slower fronts than we expected. Okay, onto Top Meteo now, and you can see a fairly similar picture, small narrow area. I'm afraid those of you at Dunstable flying the comp there are not in much luck either. However, if you're into the Midlands, up to Yorkshire, I'm sure you have a nice day. Yeah, low cloud to start with on here, and then yeah, peaking maybe slightly better than the other one, 3,500 feet or so. Better into the Midlands, where it's showing that we may see cloud bases up to around 5 to 5,500 feet, with reasonable cumulus, even some shallow Q at times. But yeah, really south of Oxford, it is not good at all. Site forecast. And we're looking at, yeah, again, moderate climbs with a sort of moderate cloud base, really, and that wind eventually backing around, veering around to a westerly. So all in all, not quite as good as we'd hoped, but there's good weather ahead, so no need to fret. Okay, let's just look finally at NOTAMs. Not too much going on today. Little Rissington's active. There's some military activity near Bournemouth, but it's not going to affect you. And Boscombe Down radar services are unavailable at the moment. I don't know if that means that you can't get a crossing either of some of the zones up here, but just bear that in mind, that Boscombe are not there. There is some airspace restrictions in place for Commonwealth Games, as well as some Royal flights tomorrow. So do make sure that you are checking the NOTAMs in good detail, but there is nothing really local to us that's going to affect us today. Operation, it looks like 2-3 at the moment, but I may try and swing us onto 2-7 as quickly as possible. So if the cloud remains low for a bit, we may even just set up initially on 2-7. But if we're prepared for both runways, that'd be ideal. No jet movements as far as I'm aware of. And yeah, we'll just have to see how we go with the weather. Hopefully it will clear up a bit later. Okay, see you on the airfield. Bye for now.